Hey, what's up, guys? Pete Alonso here from the New York Mets, and I'm here with Alfred. And I just want to say thank you so much to all you guys for listening to the Metropolitan Report. It's a really awesome show. You got some great insight on Mets baseball, and yeah, it's a great place where Mets baseball is talked about, and we got a lot of really fun stuff coming up this year. And a lot of really great things coming from this team in the clubhouse, and I'm really excited to keep the ball rolling. And it's been such a fun season, and I'm really thankful for everybody coming out to the ballpark and supporting us, and it's just been absolutely tremendous. So thank everybody for listening to the Metropolitan Report, and Alfred, keep doing your thing, and as always, LFGM.
Hey everybody, it's Alfred Parsart Jr. back with another edition of the Metropolitan Report. And before I begin today's report, if you like what you see on this channel, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. That way, every time a new video is released or new content comes out on the channel, you'll be one of the first ones to know. If you like the things I say, disagree with the things I say, or overall just enjoy the podcast, sound off in the comments. If there's anything that I may overlook that you want to talk about, also sound off in the comments, and make sure that you spread this podcast and share it amongst other New York Mets fans. The more the merrier, and I thank you all for your support. On today's Metropolitan Report, we're going to discuss the series that just went by this weekend against the Athletics, injury news, and we look ahead to the series against the Twins that starts tonight. First things first, the Mets just completed a 3-game series in Sacramento against the Athletics. The Mets won on Friday with a score 7-6. They lost on Saturday 3-1, and they won yesterday with a score of 8-0. My biggest takeaway is that it was finally good to see the offense click and not just Lindor, Soto, Alonso. Brandon Nimmo had a home run both in Friday and Saturday's games. Uh, Luis Torrens went 3 for 4 yesterday. We saw hits from Mark Vientos and Brett Beatty both Saturday and yesterday. Luis Angel Acuna had a couple of hits in this series, and Luis Torrens had a great series. He had 4 hits through the 3 games, and Hayden Senger had 2 base hits in the 1 game that he played yesterday. So great output on offense from this Mets ball club. On Saturday, the Mets lost 3-1. David Peterson got the start on the hill. He only allowed 2 runs, and pitchers are going to allow runs. We've seen many Hall of Fame pitchers, from the Nolan Ryans to the Tom Seavers to anybody that you could think of. Some of the all-time greats, they're all going to give up runs. And David Peterson actually had a quality start on Saturday. He gave up 2 runs through 6 innings of work. You can't ask for much more production out of a starting pitcher. So for the Mets to have great pitching as they've had so far all season long, for the most part, and lose a game, it's very telling. In that game on Saturday, they lost 3-1. The only run coming in was the Brandon Nimmo homer. So my biggest takeaway is just I'm glad to see the offense starting to click. I'm glad that Brett Beatty and Mark Vientos both got a couple of hits in the series to get their confidence going. I know I've been very critical of Beatty. I'm still not sold on him offensively, but I do believe that if he's going to have a turnaround, which he's going to have to turn things around fairly quickly, and we'll get into that as to why a little later on in the program, but he's going to have to turn it around fairly quickly. And Vientos has got to get his act together too, although he has a longer leash than Brett Beatty does. But this Mets team, I'm liking what I'm seeing. Even when the pitching failed them on Friday, when the pitching staff gave up 6 runs, the Mets were able to out hit the Athletics, which is always a good thing. The pitching there, Griffin Canning gave up 4 earned runs on 5 1/3 innings. Uh, and I mean, and Edwin Diaz, although he got a save, he got a John Franco save on Friday, gave us a little bit of a heart attack. He came in with a 3-run lead, and by the time the game was over, we won by 1 run. John Franco, we love you, man, but those saves in the '90s were scary. but that's a John Franco save. When you're up by 3 in a save situation and you win the game by 1. But even when the pitching is not as sharp as it can be, the Mets offense was able to out hit the Athletics. Great series win. That is the 5th series in a row that the Mets have won. They have not lost a series since the opening series against the Houston Astros. And of course, like I said, Luis Torrens hitting very well. Hayden Senger, when he starts, is hitting. So all around, it was a great weekend for the Mets offense, minus the clunker on Saturday. One particular thing to note from this weekend series: on Saturday, outfielder Jose Siri went down with an injury. He fouled a pitch off of his shin, went down to the ground, was unable to get up, and had to be helped off the field. They actually carted him off the field, and he was then seen yesterday on crutches. Most likely will go to the injured list. As of right now, this afternoon, as we are recording, there has been no update on his status of whether he's going on the IL or not. But for a guy who had to be carted off the field and is hobbling around on crutches, I can only assume at the best case scenario, he'll end up on the 15-day disabled list. In that case, the Mets, they don't have to worry because Jose Siri was not hitting. He only had one base hit all year so far. And if they're worried about speed on the base paths, they do have options. Tyrone Taylor will probably man center field until Siri can come back. Carlos Mendoza was platooning center field between Jose Siri and Tyrone Taylor. So I do not expect any drastic moves, measures, or changes uh, in Jose Siri's absence. Taylor will be stuck in center field, and the Mets probably will call up somebody from Syracuse. I'm guessing it'll be Jose Azocar, the former Padre, who also played for the Mets in a brief spell late last season. He was in spring training this year, this spring. Jose Azocar, again, he knows the staff here. He knows a lot of the clubhouse because he was here for a spell last season. He was in the clubhouse this spring training. And if you're going to talk about a guy who can replace Jose Siri was known so far this season for his speed on the base paths. Jose Azocar, just as fast as Siri, if not a little bit faster. He may not be able to bring anything offensively, but his defense is solid, and he's a speedy runner. So I expect Jose Azocar to get called up from Syracuse, and I expect Jose Siri to go on the IL. There's no timetable on his return. X-rays that were performed on Saturday night did come back negative, which is always a positive sign. I'm guessing it's just a deep contusion or a bone bruise, but again, we won't know until the Mets make some official announcement, which as of right now, Monday afternoon, as we are recording, they have not. Looking ahead, the New York Mets are having two, not one, but two players on the mend as we continue to discuss injuries. Jeff McNeil and Francisco Alvarez were in Port St. Lucie playing for the Port St. Lucie Mets, the single A affiliate of the Mets organization. They played in the weekend series that St. Lucie had, and good signs from both of those guys. Both McNeil and Alvarez played 5 innings in each of the games that they played, so they played half the game. And an encouraging sign, McNeil and Alvarez both were able to get base hits in each of the games that they played. Always an encouraging sign. However, with these two coming back, it begs the question, what roster moves are going to happen? I can tell you when Alvarez comes back, and it's unfortunate because he's been a Cinderella story so far this season, but Hayden Senger, who was a Whole Foods employee when spring training started, he's probably going to go back down to Syracuse. Somebody's got to be the odd man out. It's a good problem to have, though, because Senger and Torrens have both been hitting. Unfortunately, Senger had no shot to make the big league club had Alvarez not gotten hurt. But I'm pretty sure if there's another injury or something drastic happens, Senger will be back up in the bigs before the year is up. But Torrens is just hitting better than Senger. Torrens was originally going to be the backup on opening day had Alvarez been healthy. So Senger's going to go down, but still a good problem to have as they both have been hitting. As far as second base, when McNeil comes back, I think Brett Beatty's the odd man out. Rightfully, he should be the odd man out, only because he has not been. He's just not been good offensively or defensively. I believe that Luis Angel Acuna is the way to go. Granted, if McNeil struggles, then Acuna could be platooned with McNeil. Uh, and in the case of this injury to Jose Siri, if McNeil does come back and Azakar doesn't work out or they don't call him up, then McNeil has been known to play in the outfield. McNeil can play the corners. He can play left. He can play right. So there could be a shift. Brandon Nimmo can move to center. McNeil can move to left. And we can have Luis Angel Acuna play second. Acuna, of course, batting much better than Beatty. Beatty still under 150. Acuna after this weekend is in the 200s. And he's the better option defensively. As Brett Beatty, like I said, on the last Metropolitan Report, that experiment with Brett Beatty just needs to end. It's clearly not working out, and I understand they want to give him one last shot to see what they have before they part ways with him, but it just hasn't been working. So when McNeil comes back, I expect Brett Beatty to either get on the shuttle to Syracuse or get designated for assignment, one of the two. But good sign that we've got the Mets, two key Mets players in McNeil and Alvarez on the farm rehabbing. And I just want to make one point before I move on. All things considered, you look at this Mets roster entering play today. They're in first place in the NL East, and this Mets team, all things considered, they're 10-5 in first place in the NL East, missing two of their starting pitchers, a long relief pitcher, their starting catcher, and their starting second baseman, who's a former batting champion. Missing five pieces and still in first place is just phenomenal. I know it's too early to watch standings, but you got to be impressed with what you're seeing so far this season from this Mets ball club. So the Mets start a series against the Minnesota Twins. That's going to go down at 7:40 Eastern time tonight. The Mets will play the Minnesota Twins, who are second to last in the AL Central at 5 wins and 11 losses. This is a Twins team that they're expected to be in the postseason this season. And the way they've started off has been horrible. Now, one thing about the Mets offense, outside of the Houston Astros and the Toronto Blue Jays, one can argue that the Mets have not faced any good pitching, and it's going to continue with the Minnesota Twins. The Minnesota Twins offense is just putrid at this point so far in the season. There are players, however, of note to watch in their lineup. The first one would be Edouard Julien. He's batting .282 with 1 home run and 4 RBI. And Ty France is the other. He's the team leader in batting average with .298. He's got 2 home runs, and he's also their team leader in RBI with 8. But big things are expected out of this Minnesota Twins team this season, and they've just had a disappointing start. Again, second to last in the AL Central. They're only 1 game above the lowly Chicago White Sox, and that says a lot considering how bad they are and have been since last season. The probable pitching matchups for this series tonight, Clay Holmes goes up against Joe Ryan. Tomorrow, it's Tyler McGill, who, despite a 2-1 win-loss record, has a .67 ERA. Very impressive so far from Tyler, against Bailey Ober. And then on Wednesday, in the series finale, it'll be Griffin Canning versus David Festa. That one is going to be interesting. I predict that the Mets will win this series. They're going to take 2 out of 3. I do predict more than likely taking the finale on Wednesday because it's a getaway game for the Mets, and it's Griffin Canning on the hill. And his opposition, David Festa, has actually been a bright spot for Minnesota. Festa has no ERA so far this season, so that'll be interesting to watch. But again, I think the Mets, they're going to clobber this bad pitching again. The Mets, they faced bad pitching in all but 2 of their series so far. They won 5 straight series. One could argue that Toronto, they have a good pitching staff and a good bullpen. The Mets took them out of first, but they're back in first place in the AL East after this weekend, entering today. But what they've done since that series and in that series has been pretty good. Again, the Mets, and they're doing what they need to do. They're winning the winnable games against the teams that they should beat. So no issue there. I do think that the Mets take this series. Looking forward to the schedule, the New York Mets play the Minnesota Twins 3 games tonight, tomorrow, and Wednesday in Minnesota. They come back home Thursday to play the Cardinals, and that series will start Thursday. The last game is Sunday, and then the very next day on the 21st, that Monday, they'll host the Phillies on the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd before a day off next Thursday. So this travel schedule, especially they just played 3 in Sacramento, so this schedule is going to be crazy. And then of course next Friday the 25th they go on the road to play the Nationals in Washington. But we'll be back on the Metropolitan Report on Thursday morning to recap this series against the Minnesota Twins and to preview the St. Louis Cardinals series. So plenty of baseball to watch. There's not going to be another day that goes by up until next Thursday without a Mets game on television and the radio. And of course, stay glued to our Instagram because we're going to bring you coverage. Stay glued here to the YouTube channel because we're going to be back on Thursday with another episode of this Metropolitan Report. And again, I can't thank and appreciate everybody enough for all the support. If you like this podcast, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If for whatever reason I didn't talk about something that you think I overlooked, or you just have a difference of opinion, let me know and sound off in the comments. And if you know other Mets fans, send them this podcast and see what they say. But the only thing left for me to say for today is, let's go Mets, and I'll see you next time.